Hello, everyone. Let's just make sure sound and everything is okay because it is my first time utilizing YouTube chat. I want to welcome everyone. Well, hello again. I want to say good afternoon, good morning, or good evening. I don't know, according to where you are in the world. I am Dr. Clay, and I want to welcome you guys to Let's Chit Chat with Dr. Clay. So I know it's been a while, but we've decided to relaunch our media presence by collaborating with the COVID intervention team, CIT, of Trinidad and Tobago's Association of Psychologists for October's Mental Health Awareness Month. And I know most of you probably already know October 10th is World Mental Health Awareness Day. Great. Oh, hi, Westpick. I see you're early. Hello. So I just want you guys to be aware of that. So please, I would love for you all to like and subscribe to our channel so that you'll have access to our past and future informational segments of Let's Chit Chat with Dr. Clay. And so I'm going to give people a couple more minutes to see who else is going to be coming on in. Mainly because today's segment is going to be all about mental health and well being. So, first, I want you guys to know this is an interactive segment, and I want to encourage all of you to please ask questions in the comment section. And I'm really, truly going to try and make sure that I address all of them during the segment. I hope I'm not able to do so. If I'm not able to do so during the segment, I definitely will at the end of the segment. I'm going to make sure that I respond to every comment at the end just in case I don't get to do it during. Okay? So let's jump right on in, shall we? Well, first, I'd like to share with you guys some research stats regarding mental health on a global level. So, in 2019, I don't know if any of you know, but the World Health Organization, WHO, right, shared that one in every eight people, let me see if I could quantify that a little bit better. 970 million people around the world are living with a mental disorder. The most common of those disorders that we saw within this study was anxiety and depression, right? Those were the most common ones that seem to have popped up. So I'd like to bring that a little bit closer to your reality. Now, I know all of you remember 2020. And you remember the COVID 19 pandemic. How can you forget, right? Well, in 2020, the number of people living with anxiety and depressive disorders rose significantly. When I tell you significantly, it rose like 26 to 28% of what it was because of the COVID 19 pandemic. Now, I may not live in every or have lived in every country within the world, but I do know that in some countries there may be effective prevention and treatment options for most people with mental disorders. But most of them do not have access to effective care. So I will make sure, because I know many of you are on here already, I'm going to make sure and I share this link, copying it, and I hope you guys are able to get it. Give me a thumbs up if you are. Okay, there we go. I'm sharing the link, right, from the report from the WHO, the whole World Health Organization in the description box, but I'm also sharing it in the chat. So for those of us who want to enjoy a little light reading at bedtime, or if you wish to expand your knowledge on this important topic, here you go. Here's at least, it's about 50 to 60 pages. So I'm sure you'll get through it pretty fast. Well, so I know some of you may be asking, Dr. Clay, what is a mental health condition? Well, A mental health condition is usually characterized by a clinically significant disturbance. So I know you're like, oh my God, what does that mean? It means something that goes above the normal standard, that it's impacting the way you think, your thinking process, your cognition. It's impacting your emotional regulation, basically, how you respond to something or react to something emotionally, right? And it's also affecting or impacting your behavior, right? So, in this segment, or let's chit chat with Dr. Clay, we're going to be focused on just a few of those common disorders. The first one I'd like to talk about would be anxiety disorders. So, I'm going to obviously be giving you facts along with some of the layman terms for things. So, remember, if you have any questions, to please make sure you put those into the comment section. So, in 2019, about 301 million people were living in the world with anxiety disorders. 58 million of that number, guys, were children and adolescents, right? So, can you imagine? Here's all of these kids, as well as adults, who are living with this excessive fear and worry. That they're related to, different behavioral disturbances. They were distressed about things, and you would see some of them would break out in sweat and they'd be shaking, or they'd have panic disorders or social anxiety disorders. All of those things went along with their anxiety. I know you guys know of some children who even had separation anxiety disorders. So this goes along, like I said, with excessive fear, and they're anxious about being separated from maybe their parents, their friends, sometimes even just their home. The next one I'd like to talk about would be depression. So many people may not understand what that is, but it's it's basically a mood disorder. And what ends up happening is that when this person is in a depressive episode, they're they're experiencing feeling sadness or irritable, or they're just feeling cold and empty. So imagine that feeling was happening in 2019 for 280 million people who were living with that. And 23 million of those people were children and adolescents. So in depression, you literally have poor concentration, you're constantly feeling excessive guilt, poor or low self worth, you're feeling hopeless about the future. And somebody who is in depression, they are thinking of dying all the time. They have suicidal thoughts. Some of them don't feel like eating. They don't feel like bathing, getting out of bed. This is what's happening for that person. And 280 million people were going through that in 2019. The next one that came up, the next disorder that came up that I was quite surprised about was bipolar disorder. 40 million people were recorded experiencing this in 2019. So with bipolar, people are like, is that means this person has multiple personalities or anything like that? No. This individual goes through extreme mood swings. So this person is going through a depressive episode. And what happens with that? They're feeling, like I said, sad every day. They don't want to do anything. They're sleeping a lot. They're not interested in doing anything that would be considered fun. Then they may also go through what we called a manic episode. So this is where they'll have feelings of euphoria, or they have all of a sudden all this energy, and they go to the extreme. You'll find that they have extreme talkativeness. Their thoughts are like racing. And all of a sudden they have these grandiose, increased self-esteem, and they don't want to sleep. They just want to keep going all the time. Individuals with bipolar disorder, we have to be very cautious about, because they also have an increased risk of suicide. So these individuals you also need to be cautious of and watch for. Another one that the WHO reported on was PTSD. That's the common name, but it's pretty much post traumatic stress disorder. So let me pop over. I'm just making sure no one's asking any questions because I know this is a lot of information that you're going to get. And it's okay if you absorb some of that information and send me questions or post questions and comments after this has been posted on our YouTube channel or shared in various other media platforms, right? So, PTSD and other mental disorders is usually very high instances of this happening in places where there's a lot of conflict, right? So if an individual has been exposed to a horrific, series of events, or they've gone through physical or sexual violence, or they've lost a loved one in a tragic event, this person is going to be going through what we consider to be PTSD. They're going to relive that traumatic event over and over through flashbacks and nightmares and things like that. You'll find that individual wants to avoid maybe visiting a specific person's house. They might want to avoid going to a specific restaurant because of the smell that's in that restaurant or the food that's being served in that restaurant. PTSD symptoms we'll find will last for at least, 3 to 4 weeks, and it's going to cause the person to be handicapped by their daily functions because of these feelings, basically. Another disorder that the WHO showed around 2019, and of course graduated into the COVID-19 pandemic, was eating disorders. They found that 14 million individuals were experiencing eating disorders. And out of that number, you're going to be very surprised, 3 million were children and adolescents. So, eating disorders included like anorexia nervosa, bulimia nervosa, and these are abnormal eating and or a preoccupation with food that this individual has, or when they look in the mirror they don't see what their body like that body type is actually like. They see something different. They'll either see someone who is overly obese, even if that person is very small framed, or vice versa. So this type of disorder is also extremely scary, regardless of which age group has it or gender, mainly because it is a significant risk of damage to the individual's health, significant distress. Mortality rates are extremely high, as well as it's a high risk for substance abuse as well. So, all of these different disorders that I mentioned today basically are just a few as far as the long list is concerned. So, don't forget where I shared that link, you can go into the report and see information about a lot more from the World Health Organization. So, mental illness, sadly to say, does not discriminate. It can affect anyone, regardless of your age, your gender, where you live, how much money you make, where you fall on the social status level or caste system, what race you're in, it doesn't matter. Your sexual orientation, cultural identity, it doesn't care. Mental illness will affect anyone, but 3/4% of the people within the world who are impacted by mental illness, sadly, it begins around the age of 24. So many people I have found, especially within my field, I find that many individuals with mental illness do not want to talk about it. There's nothing to be ashamed of, ladies and gentlemen, at all if you have a mental illness or a mental health condition. It's a medical condition. And just like heart disease or diabetes, mental health conditions, most of them are treatable. So, if proper treatment is accessed, most individuals with mental illness can continue to function in their daily lives. So this is extremely important that you recognize that. So when your GP, general practitioner, or your primary care doctor, or psychologist or psychiatrist, whomever, so when a professional stresses that we as individuals take care of our mental health, this involves each person functioning effectively in all of the productive things that they do. So, say you're going to work, or you're going to school, or you're maintaining healthy relationships. If you have a healthy mental health, you are able to do all of these things because and what we consider normally, because you're able to adapt and cope with change, right? So remember, I said today it's all about mental and physical well being. So I want to make sure you guys recognize that mental health can impact your physical health. So let me just take another sip of water. And I'm making sure I'm checking the chat. All is well. So, after you've been listening to all this information regarding mental health disorders and the number of people that it actually impacts, I really do hope all of you recognize how huge of a role mental health plays in your general well being. So, being in a good mental state of mind and keeping healthy as far as your mental health is concerned can actually prevent some serious health conditions. So, I am an academic person. I do love to read lots of research, and I've done most of the job for you where that's concerned. So, I'll say to you that there are a great deal of studies that have found that having a positive psychological well being can actually reduce risks of heart attack and strokes. But on the other hand, having a poor mental health can also lead to poor physical health or harmful behaviors. I know many of you don't want to hear that, but it does. So let's kind of pull back and connect with some of those mental health disorders I mentioned previously. I mentioned depression. I'd like you to know that depression has been linked to many chronic illnesses. Some of you out there, sad to say, myself possibly included, as well as some of my family members, depression has been found to be linked to diabetes, asthma, cancer, cardiovascular disease, and arthritis. Arthritis is one of the things that many people in my family are dealing with or battling with on a daily basis. So, yes, if you are depressed, they found that if you have any of these physical chronic illnesses, that depression is linked to that, meaning that you can be depressed or be in a depressive mood or episodes if you have any of these chronic illnesses. Schizophrenia has also been linked to a higher risk of heart and respiratory diseases. So I need all of you to recognize that mental health conditions can also make dealing with a chronic illness more difficult. Because, I mean, if you're worrying about, oh my gosh, I have to make sure I eat less salt, or I have to make sure I don't consume too much sugar, and you're stressing and worrying over those things, that behavior can impact your mental stability. Okay. So remember, again, mental health conditions can also make you dealing with a chronic illness much, much more difficult for you. And we recognize that. Also, the mortality rate from cancer and heart disease has also been found higher in people who are suffering with depression or other mental health conditions. So if that alone doesn't make you take pause, I'm looking over, making sure I'm catching anyone making any comments. Please do not hesitate to ask any questions. If you need me to slow down or dig deeper into something, I'm right here and I'm willing to do so. So, as I said before, people with mental health conditions like depression and anxiety or bipolar disorder, they're more likely to be dealing with managing their chronic illnesses. I don't know about you, but I have an issue with sleep. So, after I did all this research and I recognized that having a sleep disorder or insomnia or sleep apnea can also impact my mental health, I have started making sure that I am going to bed as early as possible so that I can get the amount of sleep that my body needs to heal and to rest. But I need you to know that insomnia, which makes it very difficult for a person to fall asleep and stay asleep, just in case you didn't know, and sleep apnea is what a person wakes up because they're having trouble breathing and their body wakes them up so they don't suffocate. And they do that frequently throughout the night. So I just need you to know that these sleep problems can also make it very difficult for you to basically be stable mentally or to have a what we consider a normal mental health, you know? And so that you and it can also make, if you are suffering from any mental health disorders, if you're not getting enough sleep, it can make it worse, much, much worse for you to be able to manage that. So when I saw the stats that actually anyone with a mental health condition, 50 to 80% of those individuals in our population have not just only mental health issues of managing it, but they're also having trouble sleeping, right? So and that means, oh my gosh, so if I can't sleep, but I'm having issues with my mental health stability and managing it, but I can't sleep and it aggravates it, it's almost like a catch 22. And I know many of you are like, oh my gosh, well, how am I supposed to take care of one if the other is making this worse as well? Well, I need you guys to recognize that there are things that you are able to do. For example, stop smoking. Oh gosh, I know some people in my family who are not going to be happy about that. But individuals who have mental health conditions, they're finding, especially with depression and anxiety, they're finding that many of them are likely to take up smoking. And I wanted to know, well, why? Well, I found out that individuals who are going through depression, they have lower levels of a chemical in their brain called dopamine. And dopamine influences all of our positive feelings in our brain. It's our happy drug. I also found out that the nicotine in cigarettes triggers the production of a chemical dopamine. So when you smoke and you're depressed, you do get some relief. But guess what? It's only a temporary relief. And all it does, if you continue smoking, it then leads to another possible addiction. So, yeah, we definitely need to stop smoking. And we already know smoking causes cancer, smoking causes other respiratory issues. So I think the list of the cons are definitely longer than the pros, right? For me, as well as others out there. So since we know that people with mental health conditions are less likely to have access to decent health care, it may be more difficult for them to take care of their health physically. So basically, because when you have a mental health condition, it's hard for you to seek the care. Most individual with mental health conditions don't take their prescriptions regularly, and they definitely don't get enough exercise. So that in itself should say be careful to not basically have one issue and it makes you pick up another, like an addiction. So that takes care of how mental health can affect your physical health. Now, someone just asked, well, what about our physical health affecting our mental health? Now, I know some of you won't be happy to hear this either, but your physical well being, yes, also has an impact on your mental health. And people with physical health conditions may also develop mental health conditions. So I have some close friends who have a condition called psoriasis. This is a dermatological condition. And it's characterized, you can see like painful sores and rashes on the person's skin. This friend of mine has a great deal of stress and suffers from acute depression because of her psoriasis. And mainly, she says it stems from the fact that she is always worried that people are going to see her rash and judge her by it. She's anxious about that. She is anxious, and she also knows that possibly someone might reject her coming into their place of business, or might be nervous about touching her, thinking, that was her psoriasis will spread, or that it's something worse than it is. So that she is definitely afraid of, emotional and psychologically being rejected from just normal society. So that in itself makes her even higher stress, more anxious, and sometimes she goes into some serious depression on a daily basis. Another issue that some individuals that I know, as well as myself, being diagnosed with cancer, or having had a heart attack, many of them have had feelings of depression or anxiety because they worry about, oh my God, if I do too much of this, am I going to hurt myself? If I expose myself to that plastic or toxins, am I going to get cancer again? Those are some things that individuals get stressed about and put themselves into a more depressive state. They have low moods, they can't sleep, or they lose interest in other activities with friends and family, and they stay away. So, one of the main things, not only from the knowledge of finding out about these different mental health disorders and how they affect you, your physical health, as well as your mental health well being, I want you guys to know that there are things that you can do to take care of your own mental health and physical health. And I hope that some of you start doing some of those things and changing your behaviors from today, from this minute, myself included. One of those things are to get some regular exercise. Exercise is super important, not only for keeping yourself physically fit, but it can also help improve your mood. So, taking a 10-minute walk daily can increase your mental alertness. It leaves you a little bit more energetic, and it puts you in a better mood. So, no, you don't have to go to the gym for 5 hours, but you have to consistently do this exercise consistently daily so that you could get these great endorphins and natural, production of dopamine in your body. Another advice I would give you is to eat a proper diet. I am not only talking to you, I am also talking to myself. So I have started increasing my diet and increasing fruits and vegetables in my diet. Some days it's more fruits than vegetables, but I am working on those green vegetables. And I've definitely reduced some of my processed sugars. Many of my family would say, well, have you stopped drinking condensed milk? My husband specifically. But I am working on it. I have reduced the amount of condensed milk I put in my cup of tea and in my cup of coffee daily. So consider working also with your family to ensure that you make these changes. Another thing I would suggest is working with a qualified nutritionist or dietitian to help you create a diet plan. Because you know what? We're not experts in everything. There is someone who actually knows what is the best foods for you to eat because of maybe you may have a chronic, physical illness, or because of a mental health disorder, that there are specific foods that your doctors, pediatricians, and, specialists might choose to provide you with. Ask them. Avoiding alcohol and drugs. Although I would say I know within many of our cultures, we may not want to shy away from drinking a glass of wine here and there. It's okay to have what we consider a moderate amount of alcohol. But if the medication you're taking says not to drink, you really do need to follow whatever advice is being given by your practitioner, whomever that person is, so that you are not, you know, being a detriment to your healing and your progress in being healthier mentally and physically. So just remember that yes, you may feel lovely after a couple of drinks or smoking or taking, some drugs that are legal or illegal. But I would say to you, most definitely, it's short lived, it's short term. So it is better for you to find more natural ways to be able to get those happy endorphins. Getting enough sleep. I just recently found out I'm supposed to be sleeping 7 to 9 hours as an adult, and I should be taking 30-minute naps during the day. So that's not possible, all in all, the 30-minute naps. But I am doing much better with the 7 to 9 hours per night with the help of my family and turning off the television. Yes. So I'm doing a lot better with that. Also, meditation and deep breathing. Many individuals who know me will know that I would close my eyes, I count my breaths, I count my heartbeat, and it helps me calm down. I have also started talking with my family and friends when I am struggling with any, maybe sad thoughts or negative thoughts. I will speak with the people around me that I love and that I trust, and they will in turn help me calm down. Yes. I would also say to you, seek help from a practitioner, be it a therapist, psychologist, psychiatrist, your general practitioner or your primary care physician, and they will refer you to the individuals that you would get the most help from. Getting a massage every so often, definitely taking a swim, or just sitting and being still for a few minutes a day helps tremendously. And so if you need any more advice concerning that, I will make sure at the end of this segment that I put some more links within the description box as well as the comment section, so you guys can definitely follow up on some of those great ways that you can help yourself during this month of being more aware of your mental health and as well as your physical health. So guys, I am so sad to say that we have come to the end of our Let's Chit Chat with Dr. Clay. Hi. Oh, you're very welcome, Wendy. Very well, very welcome. So, but don't worry. Once you like and subscribe at the bottom of this video segment, you will be seeing much more of me in the upcoming weeks via the Higher Potential for Learning YouTube channel. We're also on TikTok and we're also on Instagram. But before I close, I want to thank you guys all for sharing this learning moment with me and the COVID intervention team at the Trinidad and Tobago's Association of Psychologists. We are collaborating and partnering every month. At least one of the Let's Chit Chat with Dr. Clay segments will be dedicated purely towards a topic collaborated between myself and the CIT team with the Trinidad and Tobago's Association of Psychologists. So I truly, truly look forward to learning with and from all of you in the near future. And I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you very much. Be well in body and in mind. Namaste. And I will see you guys very soon. Bye.